Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I say good morning because I'm here in the UK, but good afternoon or good evening if you're anywhere else in the world. I'm Melanie Perry.
I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
And this is On the Couch with Creatives. Fans and followers of the show will know by now that we're part of the Creatives Group, the private network for creative professionals everywhere. Together, we help you to create at your best, connect you with like-minded individuals, and therefore help you to grow your creative business. That sounds like a good idea to you. You'd like to find out more? Please don't hesitate to contact us after the show. We'd love to talk to you. But, as I keep saying, this is On the Couch. So, Julie, who do we have on the couch today?
We're talking to author Liz Fielding, and she has an impressive number of novels under her belt. After writing 70 romances for Harlequin Mills and Boon, Liz has now turned to crime. Her first and second murder mysteries were published last year in 2023, with her third coming out this year, 2024. So this is one busy lady. So let's get her on the couch, Melody, and she can tell us all about her prolific writing career. Hello, Liz. Welcome to On the Couch with Creatives. It's so lovely to see you.
Well, hello there, Julie and Melanie. It's absolutely a delight to be here and to share this morning with you.
Well, we are so impressed with your long list of books that you have written. 70 books for Mills and Boon. That is amazing.
Yes. Well, it's 30 years worth of work, so...
But even so, that's impressive, I have to say. It's making my eyes water just thinking about it, to be honest.
Well, you must have been churning out about two a year.
2 on average, but sometimes 3, and I have done... one year, famous year, I did 4 and a novella. So...
Wow. So what made you begin writing? Did you just wake up one day and say to yourself, I'm going to write a book?
Well, no, I mean, I have been writing since I was, for as long as I can remember, really, because I really enjoyed it. And I've always loved reading and I always wanted to be a writer. But what started me, I will show you something, this will amuse you. Some UK readers will be very familiar with Twinkle, which was a children's picture paper. And I used to write Tessa's Toy Box, picture stories. That's where I got my start. And actually, it's a very good learning process because you write a sentence and it has to describe exactly what's in the picture. So there's no room for extraneous words. You have to be very succinct. And that's very good for you. Very good training. Yes, that was great. And also stories for Listen with Mother. And then I read an article in one of the Sunday papers about 2 Mills and Boon authors, Anne Hampson and Charlotte Lamb. One of them was living in tax exile in the Isle of Man. The other one had just bought a house in the West Indies. That was Anne Hampson. I really wanted to be Anne Hampson. So I thought I'd give it a go. It took me four attempts before I actually hit the one that they accepted, which is this one. This was my first book with a lovely cover, set in Africa at a... we lived in Africa. My husband and I lived in Africa for about 7 or 8 years. And this was set in one of the safari camps that we used to go to. Obviously, names were changed, but that was great. That was a great start. So that's where I started.
There's nothing more rugged than an African safari guide. Yeah, we've all seen them.
Well, it was a photographic session. In fact, again, it was inspired by one I'd seen on television with Patrick, gosh, can't remember his second name now, but a very famous photographer who was a cousin of the Queen.
Whitfield.
And they were doing a shoot in Kenya in very much the same sort of location for one of those calendars, that had semi-naked girls on it. So it was great fun writing it, I have to say. Yeah.
Well, it sent me right back, the nostalgia when you held up Twinkle, really, because I always had the Twinkle when I was a little girl. Yeah. And the Twinkle albums, I loved them. And yes. I had them for years and years and years. How did you, obviously progressing through your career, what made you want to write romances first and foremost?
Well, it really was just the fact that I had read this article I hadn't thought of writing romances. In fact, I will confess I had never read a Mills and Boon up until that moment. And it was this article, it was so interesting. And, so I went out and bought some and read some, and I thought, gosh, that's fun. Yes, I could see myself writing those. And so,
yeah, they're very formulaic, or they used to be. There came a time when they started getting very raunchy and quite embarrassing, really, and then I stopped reading them. But
I never wrote those. I always wrote the closed door end of the market. They have different series. Some of them are very raunchy, I agree. And yes, they don't do much for me. But I like a story, and I liked writing the less raunchy ones because you had more room to write story. People talked more.
And also, you want to leave something to the imagination, don't you? Really,
totally.
That's half the excitement.
Yes, it's all. Yes, no. To me, it's all. That's the space. It's all in the imagination. You don't need to sort of read it spelt out.
No.
So you received several awards from the Romance Writers of America, from the Romantic Novelists Association. They've also honored you with an Outstanding Achievement Award in 2019. So I suppose writing 70 books obviously is an outstanding achievement. Do you think that you are particularly prolific, or you just a usual run-of-the-mill Mills and Boon writer?
I think I write about the average amount. I know a friend of mine who writes for Mills and Boon she started just a little after me, and she's written over 100. So I'm probably a bit slow.
Goodness gracious me! Sounds magnificent to me.
Yes.
Sort of writing one book sends me into a bit of a sweat. I'd love to do it. I'm a very prolific reader, and I always thought maybe I'd be a writer one day. But I think for me, if I was going to be a writer, I would have to wait until my son is grown up and left home, and I could have a little cave at the bottom of the garden that I could go and lock myself in for a bit of peace. I've got no headspace at the moment, and I think to write, you need to be peaceful.
Well, yes, you need a bit of headspace, but there is always the getting up early in the morning and writing late at night, whichever is your best end of the day. But I had teenage children when I started writing the books, but they were very good. They knew not to interfere. Get up, Mummy's sitting at the computer in her dressing gown, and they just went and got themselves some breakfast and went off to school. Fortunately, they both went to school within walking distance, so I didn't have to stop to do a school run.
Good plan.
It is more difficult when you have younger children running around and demanding or needing your attention.
It is.
You went from romance, and then suddenly you decided, I'm going to write murder mysteries. Now tell us about that decision.
Well, it wasn't a sudden decision. I've always rather fancied writing crime, but I always had a contract with Mills and Boon, so it was always, I never really had time. And I'd seen a documentary about the dreadful way that young women, particularly young, very uneducated women, were treated in the United Kingdom back in the first half of the last century, basically. They could be locked up for just being, for going out and sort of looking for sex. They, not sex workers, but just being a bit casual. And it was very, very interesting. I bought the book. It was an open university program, and I bought the book, and I started writing a story, but I just didn't have time. I really didn't have time to finish it. So it sort of sat in my bottom drawer for a long time. Every so often I'd take it out and have another little poke at it. But, I didn't have time, and I didn't have a contract. And when you've got a contract that's going to pay you, writing something on spec is quite hot. So, but then came lockdown, and I was at the end of the contract. And when my editor asked me, whether I was going to sign another 3-book contract, I said, I'm going to take 6 months off. I have to write this book, because if I don't write it now, I never will. So that's what I did. I sat down and I wrote the book, and I thought I probably have to self-publish it, because, it's hard, to do something completely different. But I sent it out. And then Joffe very kindly, their editorial director phoned me, and she said she absolutely loved it. No, she emailed me and said there was this email saying that how much she'd enjoyed the book and how much she'd liked it. And I was waiting for the but, because that's what you usually get. But it doesn't fit in our, But she didn't. She just said, can you phone me and we will talk about a contract.
Wow.
So they gave me a 3-book contract, and I'm now working on the 3rd book. So,
because as publishers, they specialize in murder and crime, don't they?
They have, but they also have 2 different series, 2 different companies that they've taken over, and one of them is largely romance. So they're doing more romance now, and the other one has a much wider general fiction sort of field. So they have expanded a lot in the last couple of years.
So which one was this? Which was your first one? Murder Among the Roses or Murder Under the Mistletoe?
It's Murder Among the Roses, which is this one. I'm sorry, everything's back to front. I don't know how to turn my screen around. So yes, that was the first one, and that's the one which was inspired by the television program. So my heroine is a garden designer, and she's working in a garden, and she uncovers the bones of a long dead baby. And it's so the story sort of develops from there. And there are all sorts of repercussions for uncovering the bones, and so yes,
it's a bit like Rosemary and Thyme, when they're always digging around gardens and uncovering bones, aren't they?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Now that is the book that is in the fiction category of the People's Book Prize this year.
That's right. Yes, it is. Yes.
So hopefully you'll get lots of votes, because of course the reading public actually decides who wins the prizes. So I would imagine that you would get a lot of votes, because murder mysteries are just very popular.
Yes, well, I hope so. It would be very nice. But, I always think to be listed is always a win, because, it means your book's out there and people are looking at it and taking notice. So, yes.
And Murder Under the Mistletoe, you have an amateur sleuth, and she's in all 3 of your books?
Yes, Abby is in all 3. Yes, she's my amateur sleuth, along with her friend Megan, who chips in and helps. So
what is Murder Under the Mistletoe about? Do they also find bones?
No, not bones in that case. In that case, she's been asked for some greenery for the church hall to decorate for the Christmas parties that are going to be held there. Everybody's having a party there. The brownies, the old people, the young wives, everybody. So they're decorating the hall as a general. Everybody's there. All the different groups are there. And she arrives with the mistletoe she's been asked for and a load of other stuff. And then she spots somebody who had been a teacher, one of her teachers from high school. who she's very fond of, and she goes across to say hello to him. And he goes up the ladder to sort of fix the last of the lights, whilst a very unpleasant man, sort of very smooth, very unctuous. He's a bit of a silver fox, and he's sort of smoothing round her, trying to sort of get her to do something for him. And then the guy is fixing the lights. He tightens up the last of the things on the top of the tree. The lights go out. There's a nasty sort of fizz, and then the next thing you hear is him falling through the tree and hitting the floor, and he's dead. Poor man. So we have an unexplained death, or not a suspicious death, but an unexplained death, so unexpected. So in that case like that, the police will be called, and then at the time they think it's just an accident, but Abby isn't quite so sure, and then she sort of picks up on this unpleasant guy who is trying to get her to make over his garden, but he wants her to do it for nothing, as a friend, now I know you're a friend. And she thinks that's very weird, and she's trying to sort of say, look, I don't do that, you make an appointment, you can come to my office and we'll talk about it. But when he does come to her office, he leaves a photograph that links back to the first book, in which a young woman in the first book has been abused. And then there's a sort of suggestion that he knows something, and that he will spread the word if she doesn't do as he asks. And then she discovers that he sort of gets lots of people to do things for him, and she's thinking, this guy is a serial blackmailer. And then he gets killed. So and that is definitely murder. So yes.
So, and the third one that's being published this year?
And that's well, they've both been published this year. Oh, there's the new one to be published this year. I keep forgetting we're in a new year. That's at the flower show. Abby now has a show garden at the local show in her district, and she meets a woman who is a television gardening star, a real national treasure, who also dies. So quite quickly. So
I love about murder mysteries. There's bodies everywhere.
Absolutely, yes,
you never knew if there would be one murder or whether they would all go down like ninepins.
Yes, no. It's. I think I've restrained myself. First, there was only one in the first one, and 2 in the second, and I think there'll only be 2 in the third. But Abby usually gets herself into a bit of trouble as well. So,
how different for you was it? Because I'm fascinated from going from sort of romance novels to like a murder mystery, and I love murder mysteries, and that's what I read pretty much more than anything else. I love Agatha Christie. I love all the murder mysteries, Robert Thorogood. I just love them all. So I'll be definitely buying your books. But I've always thought, God, it's quite a complicated process to really weave the different strands together, and the clues, and especially if you're writing a series where you've maybe got something that you said you've got a thread that sort of follows on from one of the other books.
Yes.
And remembering all that stuff and weaving into how do you do it?
Well, one of the biggest changes is the fact that you have a lot more characters. As I discovered when I was about in the second chapter of the first book, I thought, oh God, everybody will know who's done it, but they wouldn't, because it wasn't, but they will think they know at this point. And at that point I thought, oh gosh, I need more suspects, I need more people. And I had to sit down and think about, this small town, very small town, and who was going to be there, and who Abby would know, and who is going to get involved. So that was quite a big change for me, because in short romance, they basically like you to keep it to two people with just, a little bit of secondary characters to sort of make the things go along. But that was the big change. And then kind of right. And I have to say that, particularly in the second book, the murderer could have been an awful lot of people, and I didn't decide until quite late who it was, which was quite helpful, because then I wasn't giving away who it was. But I must admit, my Zoom group, who I meet every evening, they were saying to me, "So have you decided yet?" I said, "No." I was getting very close to the end at that point, but then suddenly it kind of all fell into place. I had two strands and two people, and it all just dropped into place, because by that time the characters and you can see how they would react to things. So it is difficult, and it is very different writing more than writing all these different strands and thinking about who could have done it and setting up red herrings and things. And yeah.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, because I always imagined that Agatha Christie, obviously the queen of crime, that she always worked her way backwards.
Yes, I believe that she quite frequently, didn't decide who the murderer was until pretty much the end, and then went back and sort of filleted in all the necessary bits and pieces, which you do. So yes. Yes, yes. I mean, this morning I was working and I wanted something to happen, and I realised I had to go back and change something to sort of just add something in to make that work. And the way I write when I finished a book, it's finished. I don't, I'm not one of these that then goes, just throws it down and then does a big revision. I revise as I go. It has to be right before I can move on. So if something changes, I have to go back and fix it before I can move on. But then that does mean that when I get to the end, pretty much, apart from a read through, I'm done, which is nice.
And have you enjoyed that part of your new genre, that the character development side?
Yes.
Have you really enjoyed that?
Yes, because of course Abby's got a load of backstory, and she's got, she was getting a divorce from her husband in the first book, and then met an old school friend, her first love, basically. At that time, he's moved back into the town, so we've got that ongoing relationship. She's got 3 children, which they are delightful, but can be tricky. I invent all sorts of reasons to get them out of the way, so that Abby isn't sort of constantly worrying about her kids. So that's a big thing. And then her friends also. You think about what's happened to them, and I've got 2 lovely old ladies who live across the road. A gay couple, absolutely hilarious. People love her. I really love them. In fact, I was at the pool the other day, and one of my swimming buddies really, really loves the books, and she says, "Are we going to get some more Beattie and June?" And I went, "God, I haven't put Beattie and June in." I wrote them a scene.
Now, you obviously, this is a 3-book contract.
Yes.
Okay, so are you going to write more Abby Finch mysteries, or are you going to create a different detective?
I don't know. The last time I spoke to my editor, she mentioned a 4th book, so I guess she's hoping for more. So we'll see how it goes. Yes, I have an idea for well, I have a couple of ideas, so hopefully it will be ongoing for a while anyway. Yes.
So you're currently writing a 4th one, or you?
No, this is the 3rd one I'm writing. Yes, it's due out in May, so sort of late spring anyway. So So I need to get on with it. I'm a bit behind.
And do you think at any point you might get made into a television series? Would you like to see your books made into a television series, or would you like to stay
that's
on the
always
page?
the dream. That's always the dream. But I think you need quite a long backlist of books before they get even slightly interested.
Yeah.
So yes, I think
franchise. It's got to go on and on.
Detective Agency and Agatha Raisin and those, yeah, they wrote a lot of books.
Yes, and I see Joy Ellis's Jackman and Evans series is going to be televised too. So
people love it.
She's got a lot of books there.
Yeah, such a good genre. People love it, and I love it. And yeah, if it's a murder mystery on television, I will watch it.
Yes, me too. Me too. I prefer the more cozy stuff.
Yes.
I mean, Acorn are doing a lot, and some of the other, streaming services are doing a lot. So you're not just relying on BBC and ITV these days.
I like like you say. I like what I call cozy murders.
Yes,
I the nice murders. The cup of tea and a scone kind of murders where okay, people might have been bumped on the head. And okay, they're died, but there's no blood and guts and gore. And
no, there's nothing to scare the horses.
If I can say that.
No, that's what I like too.
Cozy murders, yeah, it's nice. I also like the true crime stuff as well, although it can get very gory because human beings can be very evil.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. But there's some good stuff. There's some good true crime stuff on the television these days.
I enjoy it when they eventually get somebody that they've been after for a while, and they get them on. It's amazing what forensics and DNA and things can do these days.
There was a cold case series that was very good.
Fascinating. Yes. Fascinating, isn't it?
Yes. They're going back to cases in the 50s, and they're solving them. Yes. So many cold cases were solved in 2023 alone, just by going back into the files and using DNA.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, yes.
Right. Okay. So this gets on to our top tips, or your top tips for aspiring romance or murder mystery writers. What top tips do you have for somebody who thinks, I can do this, I'm going to start doing this?
Well, first of all, I would suggest they buy my Liz Fielding's Little Book of Writing Romance, which has all my tips in it. But concentrate on your characters. I mean, start with something happening. Start at the moment of change for one of your characters. That don't start with the weather or dreams or waking up in the morning. Start with action. That's one of my big ones. Yes. So I think that's quite a lot of manuscripts that I have read. Nothing really happens until the third chapter, and I was at a meeting with a Mills and Boon editor, a talk, and somebody sort of said, but you won't know what happens, and you won't understand my book until you get to the third chapter. And she said, I need to understand it on the first line. So start with something happening. Yeah, don't waffle on. Your backstory is something to be fed in at a later date in very small doses. Yeah.
And number two?
Number two, what shall I say? I don't know. Write every day if you can.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
No, I was going to say write every day if you can. It's I know for some people it's difficult, but if you could even find half an hour just to keep the continuity going, because it's very easy once you stop just to stay stopped. You really, even when you have written 80 books, sometimes it's hard to go to the computer every day, and you have to. If it's, if you're going to get your book written, you have to work at it. It is hard work. So, that's also my advice is to just keep doing it. And if it does involve getting up an hour earlier in the morning, or giving up television time, it's easy to say I haven't got time, but if you really want it, you will find it.
I think that's true. It's having to really want it. So how much do you want it?
Yes.
You can't just wake up in the morning and suddenly you're going to be a published author and the world's going to go do lally for your books. You need to put the effort in. And if you're not prepared to do that, then you...
No. Well, as I say, I wrote three Mills and Boon before the fourth one was picked up by an editor. And I was very fortunate. I had an editor who saw me through that book, sort of constantly, I don't think they have time to do that now, but I was very fortunate. She really pushed. She saw something that she liked and made sure that the book got finished. And I was very, very grateful to her.
How does one actually contact Mills and Boon and say, I've written a book, could you please read it?
There's a website. Go to the website and there are details on there how to submit a book. There's the Mills and Boon one in the UK. There's the Harlequin one in America. They both have tips, helpful advice, and how to submit your book. The other thing is to sort of actually, particularly if you're writing romance, read a lot and read right across the genre to find what you really, really enjoy. You didn't enjoy the raunchier ones, and neither did I, but some people do, and they really like to write them. But find that level that you really feel comfortable with, because you can't sort of scattergun it. You have to sort of focus on a particular style within the Mills and Boon genre, and there are a lot of them. So have a good read, and not just one, but sort of the library is a good place for that. They have all the books. You don't have to buy them. You can go and borrow them. And because of PLR, public lending right, the author gets paid. So that you're not robbing the author. Use your libraries. They're brilliant. Yes.
Wonderful.
Do you think it was easier for you as you got picked up by Mills and Boon? And I guess another good tip would be don't give up. Just keep going, keep submitting. But do you think it helped you having that long career history with Mills and Boon to be picked up by a publisher for your murder mystery series?
Well, I mean, obviously, they know that you are capable of delivering a book. Although I did submit an entire book. I didn't submit 3 chapters, but they know that you are capable of delivering not just once, but over and over, because you've got history. But if it's a good book and it grabs them, they will take it. And the new sort of style of independent publishers who are digital first are very eager for books and for new writers. There's Storm, there's Bookature, there's Joffe, there's a whole lot of them. And you won't get paperbacks in shops unless you're selling really well. But you will get paperbacks. People are able to buy paperbacks, and they are very good at promotion. And Joffe are brilliant at promotion. It's been a real eye-opener in comparison with Mills and Boon, who sell their brand. They don't sell their authors, whereas Joffe really sell their authors. So that has been very nice. I've really, really enjoyed that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we have a lot of people say to us, oh, there's no point in me writing a book because I'm not famous. People only want to publish famous authors. So it's quite nice to hear that there are people out there seeking out new talent.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. What they're looking is for good stories, well told, sort of, and, sort of read books, see what they're publishing. That's all. That's really one of the biggest pieces of advice is see what's out there, see what is popular, but don't chase a bandwagon, because, if you can see a bandwagon, by the time you've caught it up, it's out of sight. But like the 50 Shades of Grey thing, which then you've got loads and loads of books that were very similar, but it's gone. Whereas the romance and crime just, they continue because people enjoy them and they will continue to read them.
I was really cross about 50 Shades of Grey. I have to admit, I bought that because I saw what everybody was writing about it on the internet, and people that I knew were raving about this book. And so I when I was still working in London, I went into the W.H. Smith's, I think it was, and I bought the trilogy. When I got in there, I didn't realise it was a blooming trilogy. Anyway, I got in and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to buy this. It was the most god-awful piece of rubbish that I have ever wasted my life on. And I persevered with it for the 3 books. That I'm going to give it a chance. It was just poorly written. It was just a load of and I think by the 3rd quarter of the 2nd book, I began to see a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, thinking, right, she's got something here. She's developing something. It's going to go somewhere. And then by the 3rd book, it had tailed off again. And it was just like, what the hell? And when it came out as a movie, I just thought, well, this is the one book series I'm going to be really delighted with, where the producer has just totally revamped it, because I'm thinking I wouldn't watch the story of that book because it was so bloody boring.
Yes.
Excuse my French. It was
that girl tripping over her feet and falling over and being totally useless. Yes, I have to say I never got to the 2nd book. I read the 1st book because any time that you see something that everybody is reading and raving about, you think, well, I've got to read it, see what it's about. Yeah. But yes, no.
Yeah. I was thinking, if this is the state of humanity today, if this is what it takes to get people in a flurry, God help us all, is how I felt when I finished that book. I have to say.
Yes.
Me, Agatha Christie, in a well-written tome anytime. I want a well-written book.
Yes.
That has good command of English would be nice.
Yeah, at least if you buy one of the really raunchy end of the Mills and Boon, it will be well written. That's the one thing there. Yes.
There was no
but the writing is always spot on.
Yeah. So, There was no saving grace with those 50 Shades of Grey. There was nothing good I could say about it, which is a shame, because, as I say, at one point I did think she was going somewhere, but then no, it just fizzled out into. And when she was doing the interviews, I'm not really an author. I was like, no shit, really? You wouldn't know.
Well, she made a lot of money.
I know.
I resent it. I resent every penny that book made. I have to be honest. For all the talented, I'm not an author, but for all the talented authors out there who are fuming because their books, And I just thought, I feel for each and every one of you, because you deserve better. Anyway, that's it. Rant over. I'm going to stop now.
It's supposed to show that sex sells, but I do believe that romance sells more.
Yes.
Yes. Because I think deep down we're all a little bit romantic, whereas we're not all throwing ourselves into sexual poses in sexual positions every minute of the day. No. You've got porn for that. If you're interested in that, then
exactly. You need a roadmap. God help you. Is all I can say. How dull.
Right. Well, let's end the rant and let's dig into your psyche a bit, Liz, the romantic and mysterious murderous side of you. Melanie has been shuffling her card, and you are going to pick a card, and then we are going to talk about it.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right, so I'm going to run my fingers along, and you just tell me to stop when you want me to stop and pick a card.
Okay. Stop.
Stop. Right. We've got one in the middle. What did we get? Oh, this is a good one. Love this part of the programme. I love it because people picked such good cards for what we've been talking about. But you picked the value of creativity.
Oh, righty-ho.
Which is a very good one for you, especially switching genres and being very creative about that, and creating your lovely characters. So as we are creatives, and you've been to one of our meetings, Liz, you know we do things differently to everybody else. We're going to ask you creatively about creativity. So Liz, creativity. What does creativity mean to you? What does it look, feel, and sound like?
Hey, right. Well, it's that moment when you have an idea and you have to sit down and develop it, and you perhaps do a chart, put the idea in the middle and lots of lines, thinking, how can I take that? So that's a way of creating it. And it's that imagination about, if you put somebody in a particular situation, what will they do? How will they react? How will they feel? So they are all the major things. There's all the sort of stuff that goes around that, like where they are and what the weather's like and what sounds and smells are in there, help to sort of build that sort of picture. But it is the feelings, it's the reaction. I mean, the reaction of Abby when she was digging a hole to plant a rose, to replace one that had died, and you shouldn't really do that. So she was digging a really big hole. She was going to line it with cardboard and then fill it with fresh soil and plant it. So she was digging deep, and that's when she found a bone. And her first thought is it's a pet's bone. And so, she's, that's sad, and she's picking out the bones to rebury them, because she's a nice person, and that's the sort of, she wouldn't just sort of just crunch them down and sort of hope nobody ever notices. And then she finds the skull, and it's a baby's skull. Now, and her thought at that moment is it's a memory of holding her first baby, how you hold the head, and she's just absolutely distraught. I mean, you can just imagine. She knows that she's found the bones of a baby, and at that point, of course, she has to phone the police, because uncovering bones, you have to report them in case they're a victim, and it's an illegal burial, whatever it is. And from then on, you get this sort of build up of, who is the baby's mother? What happened? What happened to the baby? Did it, die in childbirth? Was it a stillbirth? Was it something more sinister? Just whole build up. So that's where the creation comes from, and you're just sort of building up all those feelings, and then just move on to the next stage. So that's creativity for me.
Do you ever cry when you're writing
Yes.
stuff down? I would be hoping floods of too.
Yes. Yes. When I find, it just comes. I mean, the tears suddenly start pouring down your face, and you just think, I've got it. That's right. It's working.
Oh, I'm crying now. Gosh.
Yes.
Thinking about dead babies. God, I can't.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's quite emotional. I mean, my books are known, my romances were emotional, and I've brought the emotion that I've always written to my crime. I mean, I describe it as a Liz Fielding with murders. If for my romance readers, you're getting the same stuff, because there is a romance in it, but you're getting the same stuff, but with murder, mystery, and
intrigue. Oh,
yes.
I love it. Well, I can't believe it, but our time on the couch has got to come to an end.
Oh,
I know. We have so many lovely guests that we don't want to say goodbye. We could just carry on all day.
That's so kind of you.
It's been delightful talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your lovely books with us. And the details will have been going across the screen at various points. If you would like to vote for Liz in the People's Book Prize, if you would like to purchase her books, they're available on Amazon and from all good shops, Liz.
Yes.
As I say, details going across the screen. So do check out her lovely stories, whether it be romance or whether it be cozy murder. She will have something for you. Thank you to Julie, my co-host, my beautiful co-host, for joining me on the couch today. And thank you, Liz. It has been a delight.
It's been wonderful talking to you, Liz. Thank you so much.
It's been absolutely brilliant. Thank you both so much.
Lovely. Thanks, Liz. Until next time, we'll see you.
Bye.